Welcome to the Treasury Update Podcast, Coffee Break Sessions, presented by Strategic Treasure, the show where we cover foundational topics and core Treasury issues in about the same amount of time it takes you to drink your cup of coffee. I'll be your host, Jonathan, Media Production Specialist here at Strategic Treasure, so sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. This week, we are joined by Christin Cifaldi, Director of Product Development and Analytics at Strategic Treasure. Welcome to your first coffee break session, Christin.
It's great to be here, John.
Let's jump right into it. This week, we're going to talk about surface area of attack. Christin, what is a surface area of attack?
A surface area of attack is the number of all possible points or attack vectors where an unauthorized user can access a system and extract data from it. The smaller the attack surface, the easier it is to protect.
Okay, so it sounds pretty broad.
Mm-hmm.
Can you break it down a little bit and give us examples of what these areas look like in an organization?
Of course, there's two main attack surfaces. The first is the digital attack surface. This includes all hardware and software connected to an organization's network. These are applications, code, ports, servers, and your website or websites. Digital attack surface may be expanded if you have users bypassing IT protocols and using unauthorized applications or devices. The second is going to be the physical attack surface. These are your endpoint devices that an attacker may gain physical access to. Examples include your desktop computers, hard drives, laptops, mobile phones, and USB drives. Physical attack surface may be expanded by folks writing passwords on paper, employees inadvertently discarding or misplacing USB drives, and other removable hardware.
Okay, so both digital and physical. We've heard a lot of stories about how criminals are attacking. What methods apply when we're talking about surface area of attack?
Yeah, so earlier I mentioned attack vectors, and that's just a fancy way of saying the types of attacks criminals may use to gain access to your digital systems. This is all the standards: phishing, malware, theft of passwords, any unpatched software that may leave you vulnerable, and weak encryption of critical systems where folks can hack through that.
When we're looking at the difference between digital and physical attack surfaces, is there an area that you see neglected a lot?
For physical attack surfaces, that would be not properly securing your IT closet or your server closet. So not having it locked or card access, folks might overlook that. They might think, well, my front and back door is locked, so why would I have to also lock this up? It also includes if you're placing security cameras, making sure that there is one perhaps inside the closet or facing the door so that you would have visible evidence of anybody breaking in, either an outside party, a visitor who maybe had nefarious intent, or one of your own employees could be getting in there if they're not supposed to be.
Okay, so you could easily track it back if you have that video coverage and say, oh, this person who I trusted actually is, what are they doing behind the server?
Yep, getting in, putting something on so someone can hack into it.
Okay, that makes sense. What are some things we can do to minimize our exposure?
So minimizing your exposure on your digital attack surface is not relying on employee goodwill and training here. You have to have your IT team enforce complex passwords. You can't use default settings in most cases. You want to lock things down, have multi-factor authentication required. You want to use the principle of least privilege for your systems. So if you have a finance system, we don't need necessarily marketing and sales being able to log in or even view those files. So segregating what employees have access to. Physical attack surface would be requiring employees perhaps to lock up computers when they're off site. So if you're going to a coffee shop to use your computer, having training and instituting strict rules on the computer not being left alone, so you avoid the theft, or having services on the back end where you can wipe the hard drive remotely in case of theft. That would be very important as far as protecting against a physical attack surface.
Okay, that's interesting. There's a lot to learn there, and we just touched on it briefly. Do you have any final thoughts you want to share?
Yes, my Final thought here would be, as I briefly mentioned before, all the security training in the world for your employees can't replace the proper implementation of IT required security controls. And again, that's complex password, using encryption, using your MFA, and just making sure that you're using least privilege for users' access.
Well, thank you. And if you guys are interested in learning more, you can visit strategictreasure.com/secure. And remember to tune back in every first and third Thursday of the month for another coffee break session. Thanks for joining us today, Christin.
Thank you.
This podcast is provided for informational purposes only, and statements made by Strategic Treasure LLC on this podcast are not intended as legal, business, consulting, or tax advice. For more information, visit and bookmark strategictreasurer.com.